right. Hey, welcome to Pro Football's first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, you can go online, and I'm specifically talking about the first 50 years, or from 1920 to 1970. You can go online, and you can pull up any game that's been played the first 50 years. You can find the box score, like who scored a touchdown, how far the field goal was, or you can maybe find the start lineups for the teams, what the attendance was, what the stadium was, where it was played at. You might even be able to find like small little video clips here and there of certain games. And of course, as you get into the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and all, there's a ton of videos out there, and you can pretty much find almost whole game videos on many of the games. But first 50 years, there's not a lot of that. But thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game. There's a little news flash here for you. There's no fancy videos here, nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. Now, the game we're talking about here today, now this one had a lot to do. This is the big one. The best two teams button heads at the Polo grounds, November 23rd, 1930. The best two teams. The Bears were a very close third, but the best two teams here played each other. This would be the second time these two teams played each other. The Packers won the initial game. The second game here, the Giants. Sorry, spoiler alert, the Giants would wind up winning this game. And the Giants, for a brief period of time, would actually, after winning this game, would actually be in first place, only because, let me show you the schedules here, only because they played more games at this particular point in time. Now, of course, from 1920 to 1932, there were no championship games. It was like a playoff game played in 1932 because the Portsmouth Spartans, a.k.a. the Detroit Lions, and the Chicago Bears both finished the season with records of 6-1. So their winning percentages were identical. They were identical, if you ever saw My Cousin Benny. So they had like a playoff game to see who would wind up winning. Of course, it was a joke of a playoff game because it was played in the hockey arena after a circus came to town. And anyway, but there was no championship games not until 1933. So at the end of the season, whichever team had the best overall winning percentage wound up winning the title. So as I said, let me show you the schedules here. I said only because, the Giants at this particular point in time had played more games than the Packers did. The Giants would vault into first place just for a short period of time. But this was a crazy season. Absolutely. It was the year of the missed extra point. I could go back and point out 5 or 6 different games. If I'm just talking missed extra points. If an extra point was made here or an extra point was made there, the Giants would have won the title. If the Bears there's one game the Bears lost. This one right here. Bears, now, of course, the Packers missed an extra point here as well. But had the Bears made these 2 extra points, the Bears would have won the 1930 NFL title. It's crazy. But you'll see right here that the Packers started the season off against the Oshkosh All-Stars, a little exhibition game. So, of course, that didn't count in the standings. But then they won their first 8 games. Then the last video I did was when they played at Comiskey Park against the Chicago Cardinals. The Cardinals would prevail 13-6, and newsflash, the Giants would prevail in this game 13-6. Now you also kind of notice too here is that the Packers played all their home games in the beginning of the season, and then the last bunch of games they were on the road because it got cold in Green Bay. So they early on when it was warm, if you want to call it that. They played in Green Bay, and then they took to the roads. So you'll see they won their first 8 games. They would lose this one, and they would lose this one. So they would be 8-2 at this particular point in time after the Giants came here. So we go to the Giants schedule here, and we'll notice that the Giants played many more games. Well, a few more games at this particular point in time. They beat the Newark Tornadoes, who were in the league. They were not very good. This would be the last year in the league for them. Then they played the Long Island Bulldogs, who were not in the league. They beat the Providence Steamroller. They lost to the Packers 14-7. So they won one game. They won two games. The Milwaukee Nighthawks were not in the league. Then they beat the Bears. That's 3. This is 4. This is 5. This is 6. This is 7. This is 8. This is 9. This is 10. They lost to the Ironton Tanks. That was not a league game. So they won 10. They lost this one, so they were 10-2. Then they would win this one, and it would be 11-2. The Packers would lose this, and the Packers would be 8-2. So the Giants at this particular point in time played 3 more games than the Packers did. So the Giants were 11-2, Packers 8-2. The Giants had a better overall winning percentage. So after this game was over, the Giants would vault in the first place. Now I'll just show you. I mean, this is, had the Giants made either one of these extra points right here, they missed 2 extra points. Had they kicked either one of these and got a tie, they would have won the title. They would have had one less loss. They would have been 13-3. They would have won the title. The Packers were 10-3. Giants were 13-4. So the Packers had a winning percentage of 769. The Giants had a winning percentage of 765. So by 0.004 percentage points, the Packers won the 1930 overall. It was just, the year of the missed extra points. I said these 2 right here. Giants make either one of these, Giants win the title. It's just the way it was. But as I said, these are certainly the 2 best teams. The Bears were in third place. The Bears, were very close, to and actually the Bears would beat the Giants, and the Bears also beat the Packers as well too. So that all these teams beat each other. The Packers beat the Giants beat the Packers. The Giants beat the Bears beat the Giants. I mean, the Packers beat the Bears beat the they all beat each other. So the top 3 teams, they were very, very good. Very, very good. Now, of course, this game here was played at the Polo grounds. As I said, I showed you that. That the Packers played all their games at home early on, and then they took to the road. So I mean, as I said, they played very well at home, and then they just started stumbling. And they started off 8-0. Their final 6 games, they went 2-3-1. And the last game that they tied against the Portsmouth Spartans, 6-6. Now the Packers missed their extra point. But had the Spartans, had they made their extra point, and would have been, the Packers would have lost, Giants would have won the championship. So let's go over a little bit of the history of the Polo grounds here. Of course, this is where the Giants, 1925, from 1925 to 1955, the New York Giants were in the Polo grounds. 1956, they moved to Yankee Stadium. 56 to first 2 games of 73, the Giants were at Yankee Stadium. The final 12 games of 73 and all 74, they were at the Yale Bowl. In 1975, they shared Shea Stadium with the Jets. 76, that's when Giant Stadium opened up, and of course now they play their games at MetLife Stadium, which is basically almost the identical to what Giant Stadium was. But let's go over a little bit over the Yale Bowl here. Did I just want to? Did I pop that up there? I'm not sure if I did. I think I probably did. But yeah, so you got the Green Bay Packers at the Giants at Polo Grounds, November 23rd, 1930. All right, Polo Grounds. Here we go. This is just straight out of Wikipedia here. Obviously, the Polo Grounds was most known for baseball, but the various incarnations of the Polo Ground were well suited for football, and hundreds of football games were played there over the years. The first professional football game played in New York City was played at the Polo Grounds on December 4th, 1920. The game featured the Buffalo All-Americans against the Canton Bulldogs in the first year of the American Professional Football Association. 1920, 1921, it was called the American Professional Football Association. 1922, it became the NFL. The Buffalo All-Americans won the game 7-3. Some argue that the Buffalo All-Americans are tied with the Akron Pros for the first championship of the American Professional Football Association. Buffalo All-Americans were very good. In 1921, the Buffalo All-Americans should have won the title, but all you got to do is look up the Staley swindle, and that'll explain what happened to Buffalo. That's a little bit of a different story for a different time, but Buffalo should have won the title in 1921, but because the owner or whoever was in charge of Buffalo at the time, scheduled a rematch against the Bears, and that was their undoing. They should not have scheduled. They scheduled a game against the Bears, and that was not on the schedule initially. And had they not rescheduled another game against the Bears, Buffalo would have won the title. But back then, see, nowadays it's all about the money. But I do believe in my heart that teams actually want to win Super Bowls. Yes. That's not so much the case back then. Back then, it was all, I'm going to say 75%. It's all about 80% was all about the Benjamins. If we win the title, cool. We want money. So it was more about the money back then, in my opinion, than it is nowadays. Of course, you have the Brickley Giants in 1921. Played their final game in the 1921 season against the Cleveland Indians at the Polo Grounds. The game ended 17-0 Giants loss. Shortly afterward, the team folded. The Brickley Giants, they were not very, very good. Let's see. Other than the name, there is no relationship between the Brickley Giants and the modern New York Giants franchise. Both the New York Giants and the New York Jets, who actually at the time were known as the Titans of the AFL, used the Polo Grounds as their home field before moving on to other sites. Now, of course, at the time when the Jets came in and used the Polo Grounds, the Giants were playing at Yankee Stadium. The Giants moved initially to Yankee Stadium in 1956, while the Jets, founded in 1960, followed the Mets to Shea Stadium in 1964. So the Titans / Jets from 1960 to 63 played at the Polo Grounds. In 1964, they moved to Shea Stadium. The football Giants hosted the 34, 38, 44, 46 NFL championship games at the Polo Grounds. The Giants also hosted the 56 championship game, but of course that was played at Yankee Stadium. That was the first year the Giants moved into Yankee Stadium. Now, 34, the Giants won. 38, the Giants won. 34, the Giants beat the Bears. 38, the Giants beat the Packers. 44, the Giants lost 14-7 to the Packers. And 46, the Giants lost 24-14 to the Bears. While the 1936 NFL championship game is the only championship game in NFL history that the home field advantage was given up, the Boston, and this was the last game the Boston Redskins played under the name Boston Redskins, because the following year, 1937, they would become the Washington Redskins. But 1936, this NFL championship game they're talking about here, the reason why they moved from Boston to Washington was because they couldn't get their Fenway Park. Their attendance was horrible. And basically, the championship game, the amount of money that each player won in the championship game was directly related to how many paying customers came through the turnstile, shall we say. There was no TV revenue. There was no selling T-shirts, no selling jerseys. There was none of that stuff. Right? It was all basically paying customers coming through the turnstiles. That's where they got the money, the championship money. And in Boston at the time, they had a very hard time getting attendance. So what they did was they moved the championship game from Boston, where it was supposed to be played at Fenway Park, to the Polo Grounds. It wasn't a ton of people showed up, but probably more people showed up at the Polo Grounds than would have showed up in Boston, had the game been played in Boston. The Packers would wind up prevailing in that game. They would beat the Boston Redskins, but there was more money to be spread around. So they lost the championship. Each player and all that actually earned probably a little bit extra money. So. Here we go. Right. The 36th championship game was originally scheduled for Fenway Park, was moved to the Polo Grounds by mutual agreement of the Boston Redskins, franchise owner George Preston Marshall, and the Green Bay Packers, and the NFL due to low ticket sales in Boston. The Redskins would relocate to Washington in the final season. And, of course, there was always, back then, college was huge. And a lot of some Army-Navy games. Army-Navy was, a lot of it played in Yankee Stadium, though, too. So between the Polo Grounds and Yankee Stadium, and college would pack them out. Not so much for pro football. Pro football was in its infancy, trying to make a name for itself. So it had a hard time competing with boxing, baseball, college football. Let's say Columbia University and Yale University, two of America's football's oldest teams, played football on the original 110th Street Polo Grounds in the 19th century. In the 1800s, for some games which were expected to draw large crowds, including a Thanksgiving contest in 1883 and 1887. The grounds were also used for many games by the New York area college football teams, such as Fordham and Army. An upset victory by the visiting University of Notre Dame over Army in 1924 led to Grantland Rice's famous article about the Irish backfield, which he called the Four Horsemen. The field was also the site of several Army-Navy games in the 1910s and 1920s. But then you had soccer, all kinds of, a lot of things. Gaelic football, boxing, motorsports, open-air concerts. The center field. We're going to go over this here. Willie Mays of the New York Giants makes the catch at the 483. But look over. This is center field. 483 feet away, the dead center field. Now, of course, he wasn't quite that far because he caught it here, which is right before this fence. But then there was 30, 40 feet from this fence to back here. But it's almost 500 feet to dead straightaway center. How crazy is that? So, the Polo Grounds was used basically, a majority was for baseball, but, football was used in it. It got used a lot. But it started, we're going to show you in a minute or so here. By the 50s, it started just wearing down. Now, Yankee Stadium, right? They kept upgrading it. We built it or did different things to it to keep it alive, but not the Polo Grounds. The Polo Grounds just started going downhill, and that's why the Giants moved out of there. All right, so let me go over here and show you. Got a couple pictures here to show you. All right, let's see now here. All right, I'll show you this one here. What do we got? Polo Grounds, where New York sports broke ground. Nestled in Upper Manhattan, the Polo Grounds were now, of course, I forget, the Polo Grounds and Yankee Stadium was there was a river just in, I think it was like the Harlem River right in between the two of them, just separate. It was like, I don't know what they were, 500, 600, 800, 700 feet, 800 feet, maybe 1,000 feet apart from one another, right across the river. So they were really closely located to one another. Remains one of the most iconic and storied venues in American sports history, though long demolished in 1964. So basically 60 years ago. Its legacy lives on as the birthplace of some of the greatest moments in baseball, football, and boxing. From the early 20th century to the 60s, it was a crucible of athletic drama, home to legends and unforgettable events. The name Polo Grounds originally referred to a site used for polo matches in the 1870s. Polo Grounds, right? However, the term became associated with a series of stadiums built in Upper Manhattan. The most famous and final iteration, the Polo Grounds 4, located at Coogan's Bluff near the Harlem River, was completed in 1911 after a fire destroyed the previous venue. So here's the river right there. Right. But you can see this is right about, if we can, maybe, can I? Yes, we can. Okay, so right about here, this is right about where Willie Mays made his catch. Now you can see that at the wall, and it keeps continuing to go on back here. This is where the 483 mark is right here. So you figure he made his catch like right around here. He made his catch, I don't know. Oh, that'd be obviously over 400 feet away. So whoever it was, I can't remember. It was the Indians. They were playing the Indians. The Giants would wind up prevailing. It was rather an upset, shall we say, because the Indians at that particular had a very good pitching staff, and it was an upset. But the Giants would prevail, as I said. So Willie Mays made his fantastic catch right around here. But as I said, you can see so the wall here was another 30 feet or whatever it was to here. So he caught it maybe around 430 feet away from home plate, 420, 430, somewhere around there. I'm guessing, to venture to guess. But you can see, I mean, if you line drive, or not a line drive, if you go straight ahead, you hit it out over here, you'd have to hit the ball over about 500 feet away. I mean, whew, wow. To get it to go over the wall at the 483 mark, I guess, it would have to, land over, it would have to be hit about 500 feet. But if we'll look and see, there was, the configurations of the football field in here. All right, so that's that one. I got a couple pictures here. This one wasn't too bad because there were a lot of football games were played there. Now, here's another one. This one's actually a little bit of nice some color too. Look at the color, huh? This is right. This is you got home plate here. So actually, obviously, center field will be way out over here. This is way back over here is where Willie Mays made the catch. So center field. So you got home plate, pitcher's mound, second base, and then obviously center field here. So you can see there's plenty of room here. Plenty of room to put a football field in here. And, once you see, you get here's the goal line here. Obviously, the end zone would be back over here, but I'm sure there had to be a lot of room after the end zone. This was Army and Duke in 1953. That's what this game was right here. And you can see, I mean, it's very well, a lot of people. So that's that. When I say I got a few pictures here. Here's another one. Right, as we can show you. Whoops. Same thing here. So I mean, actually, this is probably so Willie Mays caught the ball probably running around here, so you can see, that's whatever that is. I don't know, 40 feet, maybe 50 feet. I don't know. From here to here. So, but I mean, you can certainly see, right? Whoops, I do apologize. Right, it's kind of basically just the same layout I just showed you. You had the home, plates here, pitcher's mound, second base, and then so you see after here by the end, back of the end zone, you can see that there was plenty of room. The back of the end zone, from the back of the end zone to the where the stands were here. There's a lot of room back here. Right. So this easily put a football field in there. I mean, it was big. It was big. I don't know, didn't look into it enough and all that. I mean, where they came up with to make it 483 feet. I mean, that's a heck of a shot. I know in Yankee Stadium at one point they moved the wall in, but it used to be like 430 or 440 feet to one part. Wasn't dead center. I think it was like left center. It was like 440 feet or something. They moved it in. But I said in the Polo ground, dead center field, almost 500 feet away. It's just crazy. I mean, you don't see, you ain't never going to see that. Let's see here. Let me see. Oh, up. See that one? Or this one? Yep, that one. That one. Okay, this one here. Here's the final one here. Here's me. Oh, no, I showed you this one. Yeah, this one I showed. Yeah. Right. So you can see where, it was definitely well built for for baseball and football. And that's one of those things I like, because as you can tell, I'm an old fart. I love that old kind. I mean, the way the ballparks nowadays are absolutely, baseball and football, absolutely beautiful, especially those new ones, especially the baseball ones. But I just like it the way it was back then, because sometimes the right field fence might be 280, 90 feet away, while like left field fence could be 300 and something, and then center field is like 4. It just I just love that old time history. Gotta love it. So now what I'm going to go over here first is I'm just going to start taking a little bit of a deep dive into this game here. I'm going to start off with the Daily News. Now, the thing is with the Daily News here, they have a few pictures. Now, the one thing I like about with the Daily News is when the Giants, the New York Daily News, playing at home, the New York Daily News will have photos. The Giants are playing on the road. I don't know, the Daily News, they don't really seem to care about the Giants. They might have an article, but they don't care. No pictures, nothing like that. You have the Green Bay Press Gazette, which has we're gonna go over here. They follow the Packers. They get every play. We're gonna have play-by-play, right? But the New York papers don't do play-by-play. The New York Times, the Daily News. There's another article, another one in here. I think maybe I might have. At the Daily News, the Brooklyn Eagle. No play-by-play. The Green Bay Press Gazette. We're going to play-by-play this game, right? But I'm going to go over the Daily News. Got a couple pictures just to show you. The article, I don't know what happened, but I was trying to look at the article. It was so blurry I couldn't even read it. So I'm not going to bother reading nothing from the Daily News. But there are a couple pictures here. So let me pop up here. The Daily News. Here we go. Got a couple pictures here to show you. All right, Giants take Packers 13-6. Now this is a college game. This is nothing, but over here, right here. So this is Benny Friedman here. Benny Friedman was probably the first Joe Montana, first Dan Marino, first guy that could was known for throwing a football. Fantastic. The first 3-4 years, maybe 5 that he was in the league. I'm going to say at least the first 4 years he was in the league. The teams that he was on, those teams led the league in scoring. and sometimes by a large margin. This 1930 for the Giants would be one of those years. The Giants led the league in scoring. I mean, he was very good at throwing the football. But if you'll notice here, right, it's hard to read this, but Benny Friedman, captain of the Giants, and star of the game, made 40 yards on a run back of a punt before this tackle in the first quarter. So there's Benny Friedman running a punt back. Then we're going to go down to the bottom down here, and it just gets, see down over here, right? Packers, plenty of room here for a 6-yard gain of Dunn of Packers first quarter. Packers unpacked. For a crowd of 40,000, Giants defeated Green Bay Packers 13-6 in the best game of the season. And it says story on page, I think it says 36 or 38 or something, whatever it is. But it's so, you see how blurry this is down here? It's even worse. The article itself is even worse. I'd have to stay in there for about an hour to try to read each sentence. It's just very, very blurry. Don't know why, but they're not all like that. But so I'm not even going to bother. But there's a couple of the game, a couple pictures of the game. I also have another picture. The New York Times has a picture as well too. But all right, let's share the screen and start going over a couple articles here. I have 35,000. All right, let's go to the Brooklyn Eagle first here. Oh, okay, here we go. Yeah, my bad. Go to the Brooklyn Eagle. Then I'll go to the New York Times. And then we'll go to Green Bay Press Gazette, and they have a play-by-play of this game. All right, so we got up here. Strong turns the tail. Oh, no. Oh, my bad. Strong, that's the Staten Island Stapletons. My bad, over here. 1,000 apologies. Here we go. Cagle finds going rough on the pro grid. Red roughed up early, but the Giants carry on to beat the Packers 13-6. Onward, Christian Cagle, the same star athlete who won All-American laurels by his spectacular playing for West Point last year, made his debut in professional grid circles yesterday afternoon at the Polo grounds. The famous redhead started at halfback for the Giants, but found the going much tougher at so much per than he did while romping around the gridiron while in college. He was compelled to leave the game early in the first period when he was badly roughed after receiving a forward pass. Cagle did manage to return to the combat in the second half, however, but did not do much in the way of adding points to the 13-6 margin which the Giants held over the Green Bay Packers. He ran the kickoff back after Green Bay had scored its only touchdown of the game, with some clever sidestepping and dodging, but that was about the extent of his work all afternoon. Benny Friedman was really the big noise in the Giants' attack. He threw passes, ran the ends, and returned the punts with startling ability. It was Friedman's well-timed forwards and brought about the first touchdown of the game. His passes interspersed with some nice running by Burnett and Weiberg worked the ball to the visitors' 25-yard line. From here, Friedman tossed a short pass to Burnett, who scampered over the goal line for the initial touchdown of the game. The most sensational run of the game was made by Hap Moran, formerly of Carnegie Tech. Only 2 plays had been made in the third period when he sliced off tackle and ran 80 yards to the 1-foot line. It was here that the Green Bay line held like a stone wall. But after 3 plays had been stopped, Benny Friedman sneaked over for the score. It looked as though Green Bay would tie the score in the last period when they had made a desperate rally. Lewellen, Dunn, and Blood marched straight down the field to the 10-yard mark, from where Lewellen ran around left end for the touchdown. The same trio led another drive to the 3-yard mark, but with 4 downs to make the needed yardage, the Giants line rose to the occasion and took the ball on downs. Weiberg kicked the ball out of danger and checked the last attempt for the score. Now here's the starting lineup. This is Steve Owen here. He would become the Giants head coach in 1931. From 1931 to 1953, he would be the Giants head coach. But he was a pretty good left tackle. There's Cal Hubbard, who started in 1927, his initial year in pro football in 1927. He played for the New York Giants. And then from 1928, I'm going to say 28 to 34 or some 34, 35, where he played for the Packers. Then he came back to the Giants, I think like one last season. But Hubbard, he's a Hall of Famer as well. He's the only one, I think, in both the Pro Football and the Baseball Hall of Fame. He was an umpire, I believe, and that's why he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He became a baseball umpire after his football career was over. He's this guy right here, only guy, baseball and I believe, to be in the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Professional Football Hall of Fame. So we got the score by periods. The Giants scored first. Both teams scored in the third period. Nobody scored in the last period. Here's the substitutes. Green Bay apparently maybe only used 2. So, and of course here they don't have any. There's no pictures in this one here. So let's go here. Let me go to the New York Times where they have a picture. All right, here we go. All right, this picture's a little better defined, shall we say, right? Bo Molenda, Green Bay fullback, right here, is being forced out of bounds by Red Badgro of the Giants, right here. Badgro's giving him the elbow. We're just trying to, I guess, nudge him out of bounds. Okay, so here we go. It's from the New York Times. 40,000 see football Giants with Kegel beat Packers 13-6 at Polo Grounds. So here we go. Same thing. Here we go. All right. So if you go here, it looks like O'Donnell for Nash, Kern for Sleight, McCray. So according to the New York Times, looks like the Packers had maybe 4 substitutes they used. The Giants used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. But here's the starting lineups once again. The score is the referee, Thomas Hewitt from Buffalo, umpire John Hennessy from Brown. He umpired a lot of games. Jack Reardon from New Hampshire and field judge Ray Hill from Bucknell. Giants with Kegel beat Packers 13-6. Crowd of 40,000 sees former Army star and pro debut at the Polo Grounds. Moran on a 91-yard run. See, now you see here it says 91-yard run. In the other article said, I think it said he ran 80 yards. A little bit of a discrepancy there. Substitute down 1 yard from the goal in the third period. Friedman then making the touchdown. Badgro scores on a pass. Red Badgro. Badgro. I always call him Badgro. But I guess it's Badgro. Red Badgro. Counts in the second quarter on forward from Friedman. Giants take lead from champions. So the Giants, at both teams after this game, both teams had 2 losses, but because the Giants had played so many more games, the Giants had a better overall winning percentage. All right. Red Kegel's debut as a professional football player yesterday at the Polo Grounds had for its setting the local professional football season's largest crowd at 40,000 and the New York Giants' most important victory, a 13-6 triumph over the Green Bay Packers, National League champions. It was the second defeat for the Packers in 3 years. Well, the week before the Packers had lost, they had like a 22-game unbeaten streak. When they finally lost the week before, they lost at Comiskey Park to the Chicago Cardinals by the same very score, 13-6. The outcome enabled the Giants to take first place from the Packers in the race for the championship. Each team has lost 2 games. The Packers 2 in a row, for their only other defeat in 3 years occurred the previous Sunday at the hands of the Ernie Nevers Chicago Cardinals. The Giants have 11 victories against Green Bay's 9. No, Green Bay only has 8 victories. Green Bay doesn't have 9. Green Bay is not. Well, they have 9, but one of them was against the Oshkosh All-Stars. So as far as in the league victories, Green Bay after this game was 8-2. Giants scored in the second period on one of Benny Friedman's deftly tossed forward passes captured by Maury. Well, his nickname is Red Badgro. While going full speed along the south sideline, the play started with the ball on Green Bay's 22-yard line. Red Badgro wrapped his fingers around the spinning oval 2 steps from the goal line, and although tackled immediately, managed to lunge across the touchdown stripe. Friedman's placement kick added the extra point. Down on the 1-yard line, in the third period, Hap Moran, one-time Carnegie Tech backfield flash, paved the way for the Giants' second touchdown by sprinting nearly the entire length of the gridiron to the Green Bay 1-yard line, a run of 91 yards. Moran was a substitute for Burnett, who had taken Cagle's place when Red had his face cut early in the first period. Giants had the ball on their own 15-yard line. In punt formation, Moran took a long pass from the center, rushed for his own right end, and cut toward the gridiron's midline and started crossing chalk marks at a high rate of speed. 2 interferers helped pace with him till he crossed the 10-yard line. Then a courageous pursuer, Dilweg, overtook him with a flying tackle 1 yard from the goal line. Weiberg, I'm going to say, twice, and then Moran once butted at the yellow jerseys battlements for a net advance of about 2 feet in 3 rushes. On the 4th down, the Giants' backs crouched low. The center's pass went to Friedman, who, without raising his head, darted off the edge of Green Bay's right tackle to wedge across the goal line. Friedman's place kick try was blocked. The Packers then set out to reclaim the lost ground. Starting from their 28-yard line, they bridged the gridiron with 2 forward pass plays, the second setting Johnny Blood beyond the Giants' secondary's defense with a clear field and the goal 20 yards away. But a tackler made Blood stagger as he caught the ball. He was down 11 yards from the goal. Giants blocked the Packers, taking the ball on downs 2 yards from the goal line. But before the third period ended, another pass done to Lewellen gave the Packers the ball on the Giants' 4-yard line. And this time, Lewellen ran wide around the Giants' right end for the touchdown. Dunn misses the extra point. Dunn's placement try missed, so that the touchdown the Packers tried for later could have earned them no better than a tie. The Packers made a mighty march, stringing 5 first downs in a row, refusing to be deterred by a holding penalty which threatened to halt them near midfield. And a holding penalty back then, I believe, was 15 yards, so that's a nice chunk of real estate. Their 5th first down put the ball on the Giants' 5-yard line. McCrary, a substitute back, hurled twice for a yard each time. Bo Molenda, the Packers' ace line bumper, shoved ahead for 2 yards. With 1 yard to go, McCrary plunged and reached the scoring zone, but the tension had caught both teams. Half a dozen players of both sides had started before the ball was snapped. The play was invalidated. The Packers tried again. This time the middle wall met McCrary, and the Giants took the ball on downs on their own 1-yard line. Ooh. Cagle's chances to distinguish himself in his debut were impaired when he crashed with Nash, Green Bay's end, about 10 minutes after the game started. The former West Point Flash caught the game's opening kickoff for a 30-yard runback. He carried the ball for a few short gains before he was hurt, but Friedman threw 3 forwards in his direction before Cagle could reach one. The play in which Cagle caught Friedman's pass put Red out of action temporarily. Nash knocked him as he caught the ball. The ball flew out of Red's arms, and both players had to leave the game. Cagle with a bad cut beside his right eye, and Nash with a smashed nose. Cagle re-enters the game. Cagle re-entered the game near the close of the third period with a bandage on his brow. but every time he carried the ball, the bandage as well as his headgear was knocked off, so that he discarded it after twice submitting to open-air first aid. The efforts of the Packers evidenced themselves in the first down records. The champions registered 15 first downs against 8 for the Giants. The Giants' ground game gained 172 yards against 160 for the Packers, though the overhead efforts of the champions showed 138 yards profit, while the Giants' aerial total only 67 yards, which is pretty impressive. I mean, because the one thing that the Giants quarterback, Benny Friedman, is well known for is throwing the football. So for the Giants to have their to be outgained through the air is saying something. Really, really is. Okay, so let me go here. Now we'll go to the Green Bay Press-Gazette. They give you play-by-play of exactly what happened in this game. Very, very special. It's 2 pages. For the beginning of it, so we'll go to page 13 of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. It gives like an overall, summary of what happened in the game. Packers lose, the Giants score 13-6. So the same thing here. Here's the starting lineups. Pack 1, 2, 3. Packers have 4 substitutes. The Giants substitutes. There's your referees and all. And Packers in scoring distance often, but failed to put the ball over. 37,000 cheer teams in hard-fought battle. So 37,000. Somebody, another uncle said 40,000. So there was a lot of people there. But what you'll see here is the Giants are 11-2 after this game. They had a winning percentage of .846. Green Bay was 8-2 with a winning percentage of .800. It isn't often that a fighting team bites the dust, but that's just what happened here Sunday afternoon at the Polo Grounds when Benny Friedman's New York Giants, augmented by Red Cagle, formerly of West Point, nosed out the Green Bay Packers by the score of 13-6 in a thrilling combat before a crowd of some 37,000 wild spectators who nearly went crazy as the cowhide was grilled up and down the chalk mark field. This was the largest turnout that had witnessed a professional football game since Red Grange joined the Bears in 1925, fresh from Illinois and played here in Gotham. He played there in Gotham, Red Grange, on December 6, 1925. And at that point in time, there was about 70,000 fans that showed up. Some of the veteran New York sports scribes ran out of adjectives trying to describe this exhibition. They all agreed that it was one of the greatest football games they had ever witnessed, and what's more, added they had some doubts if the better team actually won. However, in football, touchdowns and goal kicks decide the winner instead of first downs and penalty yardage. Records show that the Packers came through with 15 first downs to the Giants. Here they said Giants 9. The other in the New York Times, it said 8. While the Bays were penalized some 72 yards, while the Gotham Gritters only lost 10. Packers penalized often. Referee Tommy Hewitt and his associates were there. There were 3 of them. He had 3 associates, seemed to spend the majority of their time watching the yellow-sweatered Packers. Possibly this color was a bit easier on the eyes than the dirty maroon of the Giants. Anyway, their decisions certainly seemed to be off color, and one ruling on a touchdown play, which took away a glorious chance for the Packers to not to count even, drew a Bronx cheer from the spectators. This came with about 5 minutes to play in the 4th stanza, and the Packers were fighting as they have never fought before for a touchdown. Once the fighting went so far that Red Dunn took a punch at referee Tommy Hewitt, and the Bays lost half the distance to their goal, 17 yards. This put the ball back to the Bays 17, but it didn't kill the spirit because the Badgers picked up speed again, and some great line plunging by Bo Molenda, coupled with some great forward passing, took the Cal. All right, so let's go to the next page. We'll go to page 14. And let's see, took the page 14 of the Green Bay Press Gazette. Took the Cal, I'm going to say Hyde. Let's see. There it is. Took the Cowhide well into Giant territory. This stage of the territory, even the stayed, I don't know, old Broadwayites were yelping, "Hold 'em!" But while Friedman and company couldn't, the officials could. A penalty for holding sent the Bays back 15 yards, but this yardage was picked up by a pass. Another good game was scratched off for offsides. Here it looked as if the offense was stopped, but Lavern Dilweg rose to the occasion. He leaped in the air to snatch a pass and was dumped on the 4-yard line. It was one of the main great plays by Dilweg. The crowd was in an uproar. Two Green Bay plunges picked up a couple of yards, and then another thrust put the ball but inches from the goal. On the next rush, Molenda plunged over, and referee Tommy Hewitt raised his hand, signaling a touchdown, only to have head linesman John Reardon discount it all by claiming that both sides were offsides. This meant another rush, and once again it seemed as if the Bays were over, but Hewitt couldn't see it that way. Giants kicked out to their 30-yard line. Once again, the Packers started. A line plunge made 3, but on the next attempt, the forward pass was intercepted by one of Tim Mara's high-priced hirelings, and a few seconds later, it was all over. As the Packers were limping into their dressing room, referee Hewitt dashed up the runway, and one of the Bayettes expressed himself. "Say, Tommy, you should get that ball and wear it for a watch charm. It looks could kill. Every member of the Bays would have been dead and buried." Anyway, Sir Thomas couldn't penalize the Packers again because the game was over. Cagle hit hard. Ray Cagle made his pro league debut and turned in a fair job. The former West Pointer displayed a lot of intestinal fortitude as the Packers were on him every minute, and then there was no kid glove handling. He caught the opening kickoff of the game and was dumped plenty hard. Short time later in this same frame, Tom Nash collided with Cagle, and they both went to the sidelines, the worse for wear. Cagle returned in the second half and got a hand from the crowd for his gameness. Following the opening kickoff, the Giants failed to gain much in 3 thrusts, and Friedman punted. It was the Bays' ball on their own 20. The Packers found the going tough, and Lewellen kicked back to midfield. Giants booted again, and after 3 drives, and the Packers secured possession of the oval on their 15. Giants' front wall was plenty tough, and Lewellen booted again to the center chalk line. New York attempted a pass, which went haywire, and 2 rushes were stopped dead. Friedman kicked out of bounds on Green Bay's 5, and the spectators cheered. Once again, the Packers punted, and the teams resumed scrimmage in the middle of the gridiron. Badgro clicked on a pass from Friedman, and it was first down for the Giants on the Bays' 10-yard line. Here the Giants fumbled, and Green Bay recovered. Lewellen kicked out of bounds on the Giants' 40. New Yorkers made a first down, and Friedman plunged through for 8. Red Dunn intercepted the New York pass and ran it back to the Bays' 25-yard line. 1 rush netted a yard, and time was called for the first quarter. Teams changed goals. The teams changed goals, and the Bays had their wind at their backs. Lewellen punted to the Giants' 31. Here, Mr. Friedman started throwing the ball far, high, and handsome. 1 pass picked up 30 yards and another 20. Then Friedman faked a run and tossed to Badgro, who stepped around Lewellen for a touchdown. The pass was very similar to the one which counted for the Giants against the Packers in Green Bay. Friedman added the extra point. Packers received, and a well-executed lateral pass on the kickoff took the ball to the 40-yard line. The Bays made a first down. Then the advance was halted and Lewellen kicked over the goal line. The Giants all the way up to the top here. Oh, maybe not. Oh, I went too far. Apologize. Giants scrimmaged on their 20 and Blood recovered a fumble for Green Bay. The base connected on a toss, but a fumble inside the 15 returned the Cowhide back to the Giants. New York kicked, and it was the Packers' ball on the Giants' 40. The Packers pushed through for 2 first downs, but then the passing attack was stopped, and the 4th loss went over the goal line. And the 4th toss went over the goal line, maybe. The Giants scrimmaged for their 20 and marked up 2 substantial first downs shortly before the half ended. Bo plays great game. Starting the second half, the Giants kicked off to Lewellen, who returned to his 30. Bo Molenda, who played superb ball for the Bays, plunged for a first down. A couple of Packers plays were sat upon, and Lewellen kicked out of bounds on the Giants' 12-yard line. At this stage of the game, Moran broke into the limelight. From a fake punt formation, the Pottsville Star cut outside of Green Bay's left tackle and galloped 70 yards to the Bay's 2-yard line. So, I'm saying one of them said he went 80 yards down to the 1. Here said he went 70 yards down to the 2. Right? So Moran went 70 yards to the Bay's 2-yard line before Lewellen dropped him from behind. Here the Bays made a game stand. 3 thrusts netted about 5 feet, but on the 4th try, Friedman nosed over for the touchdown, but failed at the goal kick. Following this score, the spectators expected the Packers to fold up, but instead they started to play a superb brand of football. Giants kicked to Lewellen, and he came back 10 yards. Then interference with a Bay receiver was called on New York, and the Bays had the ball on the Giants' 40-yard line. Another Bay pass took the over to the Giants' 10. The Packers lost the ball on downs on the 1-yard line. Whew. At this stage of the game, Cagle returned to the fray. The Giants punted, and Green Bay went to work again from New York's 40. The Packers made 2 first downs, then lost the ball on an intercepted pass, but 2 yards from the goal line. Once again, the Giants kicked out, and the Packers' offensive swung into action from the Giants' 30. A well-executed pass took the ball to the Giants' 4-yard mark. 3 plunges netted but little, and Lewellen shot around right end for a score. Dunn missed the goal. Cagle is thrown hard. The Giants received the kickoff, Ray Cagle doing the trick, and he was thrown plenty hard. The New Yorkers scraped a first down as time was called for the 3rd quarter. The ball was on Friedman and company's 41-yard line. Giants couldn't gain, and Friedman punted to Red Dunn, who signaled for a fair catch on his own 10. The Packers made a first down. Then they lost a 5 for offside. Another pass made a first down, but Dunn, who was tackled out of bounds, didn't like referee Hewitt's ruling and attempted to do a Pirol, not sure what that means, on him. This was an expensive poke for the Bays and set them half the distance to the goal. The Bays punted, and the Giants returned the favor after Cagle had been dumped for a. So he took a swing at the ref. You could do that back then, just get penalized. Not nowadays. Nowadays, you're kicked out of the game, you're fined, and you might be suspended for multiple games if you try to take a swing at a ref. All right. This exchange gave the Bays the ball on their own 22. 2 first downs took the ball to midfield for the Bays, but a 15-yard holding penalty sent them back 15. Then a well-executed pass picked up yardage again. 2 first downs took the over well into Giants territory. Here again, another offside cost the Packers 5, but Molenda plunged through the line for 8 yards and a first down. The battling is fierce. The battling was fierce at this time. 3 downs netted the Packers about 3, but a pass to Dilweg put the ball on the Giants' 4. Here came the famous offside, which dropped the curtain on the Packers' chances for a tie. When the whistle blew, the Giants had the ball on the 5-yard line. Packers squad left here at 3:30 Monday afternoon for Atlantic City, where they will enjoy the sea breezes until late on Wednesday, when they hop on a train for Philadelphia to face the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets in the annual Thanksgiving Day game. Although in second place, the Bays still have hopes of regaining the top post, as the Giants have 4 tough games still to play. New York faces Staten Island on Thursday, Brooklyn Dodgers on Sunday. Then they play the Yellow Jackets and return home for another game against the Brooklyn Dodgers. Packers have quite a hospital list. Dilweg is suffering from a wrenched knee. Tom Nash had 6 stitches taken in his nose, but the breather was not broken. Oh, so he didn't break his nose out. Blood's left eye was cut open and 3 stitches were necessary to sew it up. Jug Earp has a badly crushed left hand, while Lewellen was hit so hard in his stomach that medical attention was necessary after the game. Wow. All right, here we go. Here's play-by-play. So I'm not sure if this is Michalske or Michalske or who, so I always call this guy Michael. Michael kicked off to Cagle on the 25-yard line, who brought the ball back to the 36-yard line where he was stopped. Cagle hit left tackle for 3 yards. Weiberg passed to Campbell, but the ball was knocked down by Blood. Weiberg punted to Dunn on the 28-yard line where he was down. Blood failed to gain at center. Molenda picked up 4 yards over right guard. Llewellyn's pass over center was knocked down. Lewellen punted to Friedman, who was down in his tracks on the 43-yard line by Dilweg. Giants called timeout. An early timeout. Cagle's pass to the left was knocked down by Dunn. Cagle hit center for a 7-yard gain. Cagle was stopped at left side of the line after a 1-yard gain. Weiberg punted to the Packer 18-yard line where the ball was down by the Giants. Llewellyn got off a great punt to the Giants' 25-yard line where Friedman grabbed the ball and dashed to the 48-yard line where he was stopped. Cagle was stopped at the center for no gain. Friedman's pass to Cagle was knocked down. Cagle's pass to Badgro was knocked down. Weiberg punted out of bounds on the Packers' 7-yard line. Molenda picked up 2 yards at left tackle. Llewellyn punted to Friedman on his own 48-yard line where Nash downed him in his tracks. Friedman passed to Badgro, who made a great leaping catch and carried the ball to the 28-yard line where he was stopped. Cagle was stopped at right end by Dilweg. Friedman passed to Cagle over center for a 2-yard gain. Nash downed Cagle, and Cagle dropped the ball. Green Bay recovering. Cagle was injured on the play, and Brunette replaced him. Molenda failed at center. Molenda picked up 2 yards at center. Llewellyn punted to Friedman, who was stopped on the 47-yard line. Brunette was stopped at center. Friedman broke through the line for a 10-yard gain. Feather picked up 2 yards at center. Dilweg broke through and smeared Brunette for a 3-yard loss on a lateral pass play. Brunette failed to tackle when Sleight hit him. Weiberg punted out of bounds on the Packer 18-yard line. Llewellyn punted to Friedman, who got off a great run straight down the field to the Green Bay 25-yard line, traveling 30 yards. Friedman was stopped by Dilweg for no gain on a wide end run. Friedman's pass was knocked down. Dunn intercepted Friedman's pass on his 15-yard line and dashed to the 28-yard line before he was stopped. Molenda failed the gain at left tackle as the first quarter ended. Second quarter, O'Donnell went in for Nash. Llewellyn picked up 3 yards on a cutback to the right. Llewellyn lost 2 yards at right end when Badgro broke up the play. Llewellyn got off a great punt to Friedman, who was stopped by 3 Packer men on the 37-yard line. Burnett picked up 2 yards on a lateral pass play. Friedman gained 1 yard at guard. A long pass to Burnett failed when the latter juggled the ball. The Giants were penalized 5 yards for offside on the play. A triple backward pass from Friedman to Campbell to Weiberg was complete. Weiberg going down the field to the 20-yard line where he was run out of bounds by Blood and Dunn. Friedman failed to gain at center. Friedman pass was knocked down. Friedman dropped back and passed over center to Badgro, who fell over the goal. All right. Fell over the goal for a touchdown. Friedman kicked from placement for the extra point. The Giants were winning 7-0. Weiberg kicked off to Lewellen, who dashed 5 yards and threw a lateral pass to Dunn, who ran to the 29-yard line before he was stopped. Molenda hit center for a 5-yard gain. Molenda picked up 6 yards over left tackle and a first down. Dunn's pass to Blood was knocked down. Molenda smashed over left tackle for a 5-yard gain. Dunn's pass was knocked down. Lewellen punted over the goal line. First down and 10 to go for Giants on their own 20-yard line. Burnett fumbled and Blood recovered on a Giants 30-yard line. Molenda failed to gain at center. Dunn passed over center for a first down on the Giants' 18-yard line. Blood hit the right side of the line and fumbled, Owen recovering for the Giants. Weiberg punted to Dunn, who brought the ball back to the Giants' 44-yard line before he was stopped. Blood made 2 yards at the right side of the line. Dunn passed to Lewellen over center for a first down on the Giants' 33-yard line. Lewellen went over the right tackle for an 8-yard gain, pivoting away from a Giant tackler. Molenda was stopped at center. Lewellen lost a yard at the right side. Lewellen passed to O'Donnell for a first down on the Giants' 8-yard line. Blood lost 8 yards on a wide end run. Llewellyn's pass to Blood was knocked down. Dunn's pass to Dilweg was knocked down. Friedman knocked down a pass over the goal line. Giants ball on the 20-yard line. So I don't know why the Packers maybe didn't try a field goal there. But Burnett hit center for a 20-yard gain. Burnett hit center but failed the gain. Burnett picked up 10 yards and fumbled. Badgro recovering. Moran went in for Burnett. Feather stopped for no gain on an out-of-bounds play. Friedman failed to gain at center. Moran made 5 yards at tackle. Weiberg punted to the Packers' 9-yard line where the ball was down as the half ended. Third quarter. Nash went in for O'Donnell. Freeman kicked off to Lewellen, who was run out of bounds on the 30-yard line. Molenda failed to gain at center. Molenda picked up 8 yards on a spinner. Lou made 6 over right side of the line. Lewellen stopped after 1 yard over right end. Molenda hit center of the line for 4 yards. Blood failed to gain at right end. Lewellen punted out of bounds on the Giants' 20-yard line. Moran broke through center for a 79-yard dash before he was stopped on the 2-yard line below Lewellen, who made a great run to catch him. Moran was halted at center for no gain. Weiberg was spilled without a gain. Moran lost a yard at right end when Dilweg stopped him. Friedman dived over the line for a touchdown. Blood blocked Friedman's kick from placement, and the Giants were winning 13-0. Weiberg kicked off to Lewellen, who returned 22 yards to the 27-yard line. Molenda picked up 4 yards at the right side of the line. Lewellen made 1 yard at the right side of the line. Llewellyn's pass to Dunn was allowed on the claim of interference on the Giants' 45-yard line. Molenda failed at right tackle. Dunn dropped back and passed to Blood, who stumbled and crashed to the 10-yard line. Lewellen failed to gain at center. Molenda made 2 yards on a spinner at center. Dunn, on a fake pass play, ran to the right side of the line and was run out of bounds on the 1-yard line. Lewellen made only 1 foot, and the ball went to the Giants on their own goal line. Weiberg punted to the Giant 30-yard line. Back came the Packers. Molenda hit center for 3 yards. Lewellen made 5 yards at the left side of the line. Molenda hit center for a first down on the 20-yard line. Lewellen made 4 yards over tackle. Cagle replaced Moran. Lewellen lost 3 yards at right end. Dunn's pass was intercepted by Friedman on his own 4-yard line. Weiberg punted to Dunn, who was down in his tracks on the 35-yard line by Badgro. Dunn passed over center to Lewellen, who crashed straight down to the Giants' 4-yard line, pivoting and smashing his way with a 30-yard gain. Molenda fumbled but recovered for no gain. Lewellen crashed around right end for a touchdown, diving over the goal line. Dunn's kick from placement was wide of the post. Scored Giants 13, Green Bay 6. Michael kicked off to Cagle, who was down on a 31-yard line by Dilweg and Hubbard. Cagle hit the line for an 11-yard gain. Cagle hit the line. Cagle was stopped for no gain at the end by Dilweg as the quarter came to an end with the Giants winning 13-6. Fourth quarter. Weiberg picked up 3 yards off tackle. Friedman passed to Campbell for a 5-yard gain. Weiberg punted the Packer 21-yard line where Campbell downed the ball. Molenda picked up 6 yards on a cutback off tackle. Molenda hit center for a 3-yard gain. Lewellen picked up 4 yards for a first down around right end. Molenda hit center for a 1-yard gain. Dunn passed the blood, but the play was recalled and the Packers penalized for being offside. On a lateral pass play, Lewellen to Dunn, Dunn carried the ball to the Giants' 35-yard line, but an argument with the umpire caused the Packers a penalty. Half the distance to the goal. Dunn's pass to blood was incomplete. Lewellen punted to Freeman, who was stopped in his tracks on the 35-yard line. Cagle failed the gain on an out-of-bounds play. Cagle was stopped at center without gain. O'Donnell went in for Nash. Freeman's pass was knocked down. Weiberg punted to Dunn, who was stopped in his tracks by Badgro on the 35-yard line. Molenda made 5 yards at center. Kern went in for Sleight. Lewellen pivoted around right end for a first down and a 6-yard gain. Molenda smashed over the right side of the line for a 7-yard gain. Burnett went in for Cagle. Grant went in for Owen. The Packers were penalized for holding, losing 15 yards. Dunn passed the blood on the 50-yard line. Molenda hit center for a 5-yard gain. Lewellen made 1 yard at center. The Giants were penalized 5 yards for being offside. Molenda smashed over left guard for an 11-yard gain and a first down. McCrary went in for Lewellen. Kaywood replaced Howard. Blood picked up 3 yards at right end to the Giants' 27-yard line. The Packers penalized 5 yards for being offside. Dunn's pass to Dilweg was incomplete. Dunn passed to Dilweg, who made a great leaping catch and dashed to the 5-yard line, plowing through 2 Giant men. Gibson went in for Owens. Molenda went to the 2-foot line with a great smash at center. McCrary was stopped at center. Molenda went over for a touchdown, but both sides were offsides. Molenda failed at center. Molenda skirted off tackle, apparently over, but the official ruled that he failed. Giants took the ball. Weiberg punted to Dunn on the 35-yard line. Molenda failed at center. Dunn's pass was intercepted by Burnett, who dashed to the 50-yard line before he was stopped. Weiberg was stopped after a 1-yard gain. Fitzgibbons went in for blood. Weiberg failed the gain at center. Cagle hit center as the game ended. The score, the Giants 13, the Packers 6. Yeah, sometimes they have, doesn't look like here. Sometimes they didn't have enough, I guess, room on this page, whatever. But sometimes they have some extra curricular notes here about what happened in the game and everything, but apparently not. It is what it is. But as you can see, I mean, this was quite an exciting game. I mean, you know, and you can certainly see where, you know, both teams were very good, but you know, see where maybe the Packers possibly, if they had any luck or didn't have all these penalties called on. Packers were down there multiple times, but being down there is one thing. Getting the ball in is something else. I mean, had the Packers, you know, got the ball over, you know, yeah, the outcome of this game would have been quite a bit different. But this game was, as I said, gave the both teams had 2 losses, but with the fact that the Giants wound up with this particular point in time had 11 victories to 2 losses, and the Packers had 8 victories to 2 losses. The Giants at this particular point in time took over the battle for first place, but that's not the way it would end at the end of the season because the Packers would wind up winning the championship. So That's the way it was on this date, November 23rd, 1930, between the Green Bay Packers at the New York Giants at the Polo Grounds in pro football's first 50 years. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.